Well, good afternoon. My name is Tim Ventimiglia. I'm the director of Ralph Applebaum Associates studio in Berlin, Germany, and Mark Tamschick.
Tamschick Media and Space, also in Berlin.
And what we'd like to show you today is the result of a project we presented last year in Nodem in Stockholm. So you get to see a realized project for the Norwegian National Museum of Technology in Oslo. And it was a very interesting project for us. One of the things I like to say at the beginning is we decided to work together collaboratively. Two firms pitched together. Mark specializing in media, we're more exhibition architects. And this project would really only be possible with that combination from the beginning, and also a very courageous client. The client came to us with a brief and said, we have our 100th anniversary, we want to celebrate it. We also have the 200th anniversary of our Constitution. We'd like to create an exhibition about technology and its relationship to democracy. That's all they told us, nothing else. They said, go with that. So they were a very courageous client, you know, it's their 100th anniversary, and they're going to leave it so open. What we saw was that they also had a collection. What does a technology museum have as a collection? Maybe you're...
Yeah, it's just incredible because all these objects were completely unsexy. You don't know what to tell about this object here, what's it about, or how to explain that this is a kind of station in which actually television streams are being plugged together and being delivered for display on your screens. Such a printing machine is just a huge object. How can you put this into an exhibition? And this object everybody uses and knows, but nobody knows how to talk about it. How can we talk possibly about the computer technology? And so we had a lot of different objects that were part of this collection of the museum that we somehow had to find a way to put into an exhibition and into the context with democracy.
So although I think by constructing ourselves as a team, I think it was clear in the beginning we thought media would be very important, and we've put that in the foreground. We did not want to forget about the collection, about the physical object, and so set it as our goal to celebrate the physical object, celebrate the museum's assets, regardless of how unattractive some of them appear to be. This is a radio tower outside of Oslo where broadcasts were sent. It's an icon for the city. And there are just so many meaningful objects that are not only in the museum, but also in the landscape that have to do with technology. Well, one of the long discussions we had at the beginning was, how do you deal with democracy? Do you try to explain what democracy is? Forget it. We tried to explain to ourselves what democracy is. What we decided instead was that the exhibition should enact democracy, not explain it, but to create a platform where democracy could take place right inside the museum. And we were looking at the book by Nina Simon, The Participatory Museum, and I've heard her mentioned several times. I think she's a great thinker. And we showed the client this diagram. You know, you could be like curators writing scripts, hopefully your visitors read them and learn something. Or you could create a dialogue with your visitors. And this was kind of a radical thing for them. They were rather classically organized. The me to we. Not only visitors interacting, but working together, discussing things together. That was our goal, and deciding an outcome. Our initial concept was to take 100 objects for their 100 years out of the collection and let the visitors evaluate them. Were they good, bad, or maybe neither for the development of democratic principles? You can look at an early computer in various perspectives, and that subjectivity and those various voices and perspectives were what we wanted to foreground. Or an iPhone. Would all of the revolutions happening around the world be possible without the broadcast capabilities of an iPhone? At the same time we were considering this, Edward Snowden released his bomb on the world, that the NSA is in your iPhone watching what you do. or rockets. Rockets can be used to throw terror on the world, but they can also finally give us that perspective we had from outer space to see how finite our world is and to protect it. We talked about it as putting technology on trial. That was our first concept that we kind of title that we shared. And the Norwegians came to us with this other idea. They said it's not on trial, it's in the TING. And the TING came from them. The TING is a place of assembly. It's the name of the legislature in Norway. And the Tingstead is a physical space. Often you can find them in Northern European countries where groups would gather from distant regions and discuss and decide important things. They're usually circular. It's a social space. It has a centerpiece. And so we took that idea and said, well, let's take this very ancient idea of a ting, a gathering space for discussing, and let's manifest it in the museum. So these were some early sketches that we made. It's about discourse, dialogue.
Yeah, it's about recreating the situation inside of the TING, the participatory moment where people come together for discussion to discuss the things that are to be discussed at that very specific moment. And we decided to take from these 100 objects, 8 objects, and to take them as a kind of placeholder, because in the end all these technologies are interconnected, interwoven with each other, and to put them on a special display inside this screen. You will see the video later.
The space itself is our changing exhibition space. It has 2 levels, and we organized the exhibition to have this focus, this social area at its core. That's the TING itself, with a big round table and a giant shelf full of 100 objects. There's a kind of a preparatory experience that brings you into it, because all of these concepts, participation, evaluating technology, seeing technology historically or also in the future, they require a few stages before you can fully participate. So here are just some quick diagrams, but we'd really like to just show you a video that we produced that takes you through the exhibition and from the visitor perspective. And so.
On the occasion of the Norwegian Museum of Technology's 100th anniversary, the participatory exhibition TING invites visitors.
What you can see in the foreground are the so-called wooden blocks, something very analog that people can pick up. And in the first introductory exhibition, they can use this analog device to activate different lights, to make writings visible from different objects, so that different kind of aspects, how to look on each and every technology, can become visible. And these exhibited objects at the beginning of the parcours were also a kind of key how to access and how to play with what's inside the exhibition space at the center of it, the interactive table and the objects behind the screen. And by putting the wooden block on the table, you could then activate one of these objects in the shelf, or there were also some tablets where you could select one of these objects, and suddenly the object becomes alive in the shelf and tells a little, very small story.
It's also a very old exhibition technique brought into kind of modern language, the object theater, merging a computer-controlled lighting system with an interactive media program. We can theatrically control the entire space, animate individual objects, and give a moderator for discussions the tools that they need to stimulate a discussion among the visitors.
Because we were constantly in discussion, how can we really create a participatory exhibition, and how can we create a dialogue about democracy? And the basis of every dialogue is the people. The people have to start to talk together. And to activate this, we always said we need another person, an activator from the museum, who can, this is the beginning of the TING session, an old horn is being audibly present, and suddenly one object is selected. To this object, the speaker explains the kind of background story that is then going to be discussed. In that case, now here you can see the 3D printer as a revolution for our future way how we will conceive and build things.
So some of these topics are quite challenging, quite complex, but we decided together with the museum to choose technologies that young people are thinking about, that care about, they read about in the newspaper. And there are drones, there are iPhones, there are 3D printers, DNA sequencers. And in order to get into the complexity of the content, we created these trailers, short films, which then serve as a kind of a lead-in to the discussion.
Yes, those are kind of overtaking for one little moment the space. They are really immersive. You are becoming part of the way how to sequence DNA, or you can see one topic was these robotic seals that you can use for older people as a kind of replacement for staff that is taking care of them. Some other teams were really so precise in their optical solutions that you could really dig into the themes and understand, okay, the main theories or the main topics about them. And then the TING session starts, moderated.
5 questions are discussed and voted upon per technology.
The moderator basically has a set of questions that he or she can pull up depending on the dynamic of the discussion. And the questions are designed to build upon each other. First, relatively simple questions are asked, and people are then asked to vote on those questions, yes, no, or maybe. A landscape is then generated based on their vote. A subsequent question will build on the first question, and so forth, until you become more confident as a group. And I think this is the key, although we have a lot of high-tech media, understanding group dynamic, people, how they interact, and what they need to interact with each other is really the essential part of this experiment.
And of course we didn't know this at the very beginning of the project. Yeah, we imagined a lot of solutions, we did some test setups, we tried it out with people that have never heard about the idea, and then step by step this installation evolved. And in the end, we made it that flexible that we could decide, okay, can we put up 6 questions, or only 3? If there are a lot of visitors, we can shorten it down. And what is amazing, this morning we saw another exhibition from you in the Nobel. I saw a lot of similarities, whereas both projects are completely different from their design, but the aim is how to make people participate in exhibitions today. And I think this is another example how it can work when architecture, media design, everything comes together, and the museum is there that has this kind of capacity to do so.
Just as a concluding remark, the Norwegian government has actually created a task force to explore the political implications and social implications of new technologies for the next 10, 20, 50 years. And this serves as a platform for that group to discuss and explore those ideas. And of course, the young people of Norway have a chance to participate in those important decisions. And since opening in April, we've started to collect some recognition.
Yes, thank you very much. We are open for discussion.